jump on and we'll get started. It looks like we'll have 90 minutes of a lot to cover today. I think it's going to be some of the most energizing time of at least your Monday, if not your week. So hopefully you're all prepared to listen and learn. For those not familiar, my name is Laura Kaler. I'm the director of the South Dakota Grasslands Initiative. If you're not super familiar with the Grasslands Initiative, I would love to visit with you sometime one-on-one. We can have a conversation talking about the Grasslands Initiative, or I'll show you some spots on our website where you can go to learn a little bit more. Let me screen share quick. Okay, can I get a thumbs up from somebody if you can see the website on your screen? Thank you, Carl. Alrighty. So on this part right here, we've got the full report. And if you click on this link, that gives you kind of a synopsis of the first 18 months of the Grasslands Initiative, as well as kind of what our focus of work is. So if you want to know a little bit more about the Grasslands Initiative or see where we've been going with things, I encourage you to check that out. The next piece that I wanted to go over with everyone to make you aware is if you would like to be a formal partner of the Grasslands Initiative, that's more designed for entities. Any type of entity, though, that wants to sign on to support the Grasslands Initiative and its work, you can go to the link on the agenda will take you to the formal partnership form. It's a pretty light, easy form. The main thing is just saying, have you talked to the appropriate people in your organization? Who would be some good contacts for us to stay in touch with moving forward? And making sure that we have your logo and website and pieces that we need to support your work. With our formal partners, we also like to make a podcast if you're interested, highlighting your work. So we have a podcast series called Partners on the Prairie. Right now we have 23 different partners highlighted there. Each podcast is about 20 to 25 minutes, so you can check those out if you want to listen to them, learn about some of the different partners if you've heard of them, but aren't sure exactly what their role is with grassland conservation. That can give you kind of some insight there. And we also welcome new partners to make a podcast. So if it's something that you would like to use to share your story, reach out and we'd love to do that as well. The other thing that I want to make all partners aware of, so everyone on this call is considered a partner of the Grasslands Initiative. So we've got like our formal partner, which are the entities that are signed on and listed on our website. And the partners are any individual who has an interest in the grasslands in South Dakota. So when we started 18 months ago, we had this interest form where you could put in your information for getting on our email list. I have gone through and updated it with some more specific questions. So I'd really encourage you, if you have the ability, to go back on here and fill it out with things like, would you like the calendar invites? Would you like extra emails about events, or do you want to be kind of kept on the once a month email list? Just kind of helps us make sure that we're giving you the right amount of information without overwhelming you with too much. So those are a few of the pieces I wanted to make you aware of. Let me check on my list here. Got interest list, podcast, our newsletter. If you want to look at our newsletter, they're also on the resource page of our website. Our next deadline will be May 19th, and I'll be putting that newsletter out in June. So the entire point of the Grasslands Initiative is to have this communication and collaboration hub. So we want to share what everyone's doing around the state or outside of the state that impacts the state. If you have a story to share, we'd love to have that. Also, I welcome feedback. If you've been looking at it and you're like, ooh, this tweak or this format would make it easier for me to read it and utilize this website, let me know. Absolutely welcome to that as well. The last piece is to share about different events happening around the state. We have the event page on our Grasslands Initiative website. I try to kind of keep this updated as I see things happening, but if I'm missing something, feel free to email me a link. I can set it up so that there's a link to either your flyer or the website where people can learn more. And then usually when I send out an email, I also include these on the bottoms of the emails to keep it fresh in your mind of what's coming up and some opportunities that you might want to partake in, or if you're scheduling an event, you might want to be aware of so you're not double booking. With that, that's kind of my updates for the Grasslands Initiative as a whole. At this point in the agenda, we're going to go into our work group updates. The Grasslands Initiative has 4 different work groups that focus on some of the topics that we think can be better addressed through collaboration. So anyone
Do you
can
want to
join
pop
a work group.
upstairs?
It's about a
Or when do
2 to
it
4
work for
hour
you?
commitment. Second. It's about a 2 to 4 hour commitment each month. Usually we meet once, maybe twice, and have a little bit of work between the meetings to discuss those topics. And if you're not ready to commit to being on a work group, a lot of times the work group will put in the newsletter, or today you'll hear about opportunities that you might find an interest in and a way that you can support the work of the Grasslands Initiative or the Grasslands Initiative work groups through that. Any questions on work groups? Okay. If not, we'll get started with our first work group update. Emily Rohr is going to tell us what the education work group's been doing and if there's any opportunities for you to get involved.
But I'm in my car, so I'm trying to. Can you hear me okay? Cool. Okay. So the education work group, we meet about once a month now lately. At the beginning it was really often, but we've got our 4 totes together. Everything's bought. Great work to Laura and everyone else on the team that we set ourselves a deadline and we got everything together. So we've got 4 educational totes that are spread across the state, at Rapid City, Sioux Falls, Pierre, and Watertown, and they're all at the Game, Fish, and Parks locations there. And each tote has multiple activities within it, so there's multiple short and longer activities for kids in like a classroom, or a if you have an event coming up and want to see if something is in it that you could use, feel free to check them out. They're free. We're looking for to fund 4 more totes to try to get them spread out more evenly across the state, and we need about $1,500 to fund those 4 totes. So if anyone has ideas or like grants we can apply for, let us know. And then we're also trying to get education out there at different events. So 4 events that are coming up that we'd like help with include Party for the Planet. That's in Sioux Falls on April 26th. I think Jeff Z is kind of helping with that, but if other people would like have that day available, it's like supposed to be celebrating Earth Day. The Bird Bash is going to happen at Bear Butte, May 17th. Maggie Figuera is helping with that, and you can reach out to her if you'd like to help. I forget, it's like national, there's an important part to this Bird Bash
Migratory
thing.
birds.
It's for World
you.
Migratory Bird Day,
World
which is
Migratory.
like
yes.
an international holiday, although technically this year it's on May 10th, whereas our event's being held on the 17th, and that is just because of the 10th is spring commencement for Black Hills State University, and we
Oh.
just thought that would be too much of a conflict, so we made it May 17th, but it's for that international celebration day.
Yeah, so if you want to help, if you're in the area, or just come and help celebrate birds,
Yeah.
come to Bear Butte,
Yeah,
right?
and if anybody is interested in helping out with that, if they can reach out to me kind of as soon as possible, that would be great.
Yeah. Thanks, Maggie. And then the 2 other things, Garden Discovery Day is the next day, May 18th in Brookings. You can reach out to Laura if you're available to help with that. And then there's a few events in Aberdeen in May, just general events that they need help with. So again, reach out if you're in the area and you have some time to help out, that'd be great. Otherwise, it's been a great group to work with. Our next meeting is tomorrow at 4 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Mountain, and we will be discussing like how to get our totes out and about and any other things that we need to discuss education wise. So
And
thanks, Laura.
Tomorrow, we're also inviting some educators. It's a little bit later in the day, so that way we can hopefully get some teachers on to give us their insight about how different events can better be more, or be set up to be more valuable with them, for them, with CU credits, things like that.
Yeah.
So, any questions for Emily or the education work group? All right, thanks. Let me unmute myself. Thanks, Emily. Our next work group update is Connecting Grassland Producers and Programs Work Group with Kate Rasmussen is going to give that update. And I know we're moving through these fairly fast, so feel free to reach out to myself or the work group member giving the report if you want some more details, links, things like that.
Nice. Okay. So the Producers and Programs Work Group has been working on, we were working on a project for interviewing producers to learn about barriers to participation in conservation programs, and that is currently on pause due to funding, but I'm sure we'll find a way to potentially pick that up again down the line. We're working with an SDA-CD employee to give input on making conservesd.org, as well as the Dakota Conservation Network, more user-friendly. And also we're working on a list of contractors that will be on ConserveSD for producers to be able to find contractors for grazing related infrastructure projects, and that kind of thing. So we're building that list, and if anyone has contractors that they really liked or that they have in mind, feel free to pass those along to Laura or I. And also as a way for contractors to advertise. And then we're putting plans together for conversations centered around how program providers are connecting with producers during the Private Lands Biologist Forum this fall. And yeah, I think that covers it. Laura, if there's anything else you want to add?
Nope, I just added a link on the agenda for Conserve SD. So if you know anyone that provides those contractor services, encourage them to fill out the information there to promote what they're doing. And if you're going to be at the Private Lands Biologists Forum this fall, which is I think October 1st and 2nd, we'll be visiting with you there to get some more input for this work group. And then after that, this work group will be able to share out some of the key things that they got out of that. All right, thanks, Kate. All right, our next update is our Grasslands Outreach Workgroup. Lisa?
Hi, everybody. My name is Lisa Burrell. I'm with the Northern Great Plains joint venture, and I'm part of this outreach, Grasslands Outreach Committee. So I'm just going to give an update. A lot of our efforts right now are working towards outreach of families with school-age children. So there's a lot of overlap with the education folks, and I was really interested to hear that update. And also connecting with grassland visitors. So we are going to be joining or partnering with the Grasslands Triple Crown gravel bike race. It tours through 3 different national grasslands in South Dakota, and we're going to be establishing a communications campaign to elevate awareness of grasslands and maybe produce a video at the end. And it's going to host a web page on their website about the importance of grasslands. So there's a lot of opportunity to engage with people that are recreating in grasslands, but may not know that much about grasslands and why they're so important. There's going to be an estimated 400 people participating between the 3 grassland gravel bike rides. So if anyone would like to participate with helping, create communications materials ahead of time, Facebook posts, we're doing a brochure. As I said, we're making a web page. Please feel free to reach out to either myself or Laura, and we can chat more about that. There's also opportunity on the day of to participate at a booth and maybe just engage with visitors. There's going to be lots of family members of bike riders there as well. So I think there's going to be a lot of people to engage with. And so just as let me see these dates. So the first one is going to be in Fort Pierre, July 12th, the second one in Lemon, August 16th, and the third one is going to be in Wall, September 27th. So if any of those dates work for you and you'd like to participate, yeah, give Laura a shout. We are also developing plans to participate in the South Dakota's 250th anniversary. The details are still in development, but we are brainstorming potential ideas for collaboration in ways that we can highlight grasslands in this celebration, because it makes up so much a part of South Dakota. So if you're interested in that, again, reach out. And then the last thing that I'll mention is that we have a Google group. It's kind of a hub for communications professionals to share the work that we've done, you know, communications materials that can be shared out, but also learning opportunities and crafting communications messages. So there's just a lot going on there, and there's some really neat resources. So if you want to be a part of that, again, reach out and we can connect you. And also, if you have anything that you'd like to share, like if you have developed something that you are interested in getting out there and for others to use, please get in touch, because we'll gladly help distribute that.
Thanks, Lisa.
Yeah.
Any questions regarding that outreach work group? Once again, yep, for the goodie bags for the bike riders, if you have any items that you think would be good to share, if you have connections to seed packets or good information, let us know and we'll get that in there. Or come join us the day of. Be a voice for the grasslands and help make those connections. Thanks. Our fourth work group is the South Dakota Grassland Conservation Strategy. AJ is going to give an update from that work group.
You bet. Thanks, Laura. The Grassland Strategy Workgroup is working on quite a few different things right now. We've got the Farm Bill coming up. Still looks like we're on track to get a Farm Bill passed this fall. We've worked on a few different things regarding the Farm Bill. One was the CRP changes that we'd like to make, and when we were out in Washington a couple of weeks ago, we left that with a number of the offices that we visited with, and we've sent it out to a number of offices as well, and so hoping to get some of those included in the upcoming Farm Bill. I guess one of the things that's going on locally is property taxes are continuing to be talked about at the state level. Really, there's two different things going on. One is that owner-occupied rates, especially in the Sioux Falls and Rapid City areas, have increased dramatically, and it's putting a lot of strain on homeowners. And so they're being fairly vocal about those increases. And so the legislature is definitely taking note and trying to find a way to address that issue. And then the other issue is that a lot of counties are they aren't getting the additional revenue from the increase in owner-occupied rates. Most of their revenues come from ag land, and while they've increased, they haven't increased as quickly as what spending has. And so counties are really starting to feel the crunch, and what they are proposing is a county sales tax, and that would allow counties to levy a county sales tax to raise some additional revenues for the county. And then they also passed a bill this last session to limit the increases in owner-occupied rates as well. But there's still going to be more work to be done. They're going to put together a summer study again this year and talk about it, and so we'll be a part of that conversation. Hopefully, one of the the things that we want to keep in mind when visiting with those folks is that obviously we don't want the property tax burden to get shifted to agriculture, and then also within ag property taxes we still have some inequity that we're trying to address as well. A lot of grassland is taxed as cropland at much higher rates than what non-cropland is taxed at, and so we're continuing to look for opportunities to move more towards an actual use model where property taxes are based on actual use and not the highest and best use is what the current methodology is. Then I guess getting back to federal stuff, Senator Thune and Senator Klobuchar introduced the American Prairie Conservation Act, which expands sod saver nationwide. Right now, sod saver is just in place for 6 states in the Midwest. I think South Dakota, North Dakota, Iowa, Nebraska, Minnesota, Montana. But this would expand sod saver nationwide. Sod saver, if you're not familiar with it, it reduces crop insurance subsidies for crops grown on land that was recently converted to cropland, native sod that was recently converted to cropland for the first 4 years. And while there definitely has been an impact, it's not been as big as we'd like. And so what we were talking with those staffers out in DC was some ways that we can strengthen sod saver to allow it to have a little bit bigger impact, and then possibly even using some of those savings. I think sod saver is estimated to save about $50 million annually in crop insurance subsidies. And so that was an old number. That was from a study done probably 10 years ago. But we're trying to get those monies reallocated then towards conservation. The money's saved through sod saver. So we started a conversation internally about that. We're going to continue to work, especially with Thune's office, about how to strengthen some of that sod saver language. It's great to see that Senator Thune, now that he's the majority leader, is going to be taking the lead on introducing legislation. We weren't sure if that was going to be the case or not. In the past, sometimes the leaders have stayed above the fray and not introduced their own legislation, but it does not look like that's going to be the case for Thune. So that was all positive. But if anybody has any feedback or ideas on how to strengthen sod saver, just let Laura know, or you can reach out to me as well, as we're going to be talking about that and putting together some recommendations here in the next few weeks. I guess in addition to that, we met with several different offices. It was a whirlwind. We were out there for 2 days, and I think we met with a dozen different offices. We also met with Rounds staff as well, Lucas Hike Camp, and they were definitely interested in what we were talking about. It's kind of interesting, it's you start talking about grasslands and they're listening, but then you start talking about game birds and habitat, and that's when they really start to perk up. And so it was good being out there with American Bird Conservancy and National Wildlife Federation, because I think being able to tie together promoting and preserving grasslands as well as upland hunting in the state. I think that was that's definitely an inroad with both Brown's and Thune's office as well. But it seemed like Rounds' office was very interested in either coming up with new insurance products or reforming some of the current insurance products that we have available to us, you know, like NAP and LRP, PRF, some of those different insurance products that that we in the cattle and hay business use. And so that was good, good to hear. We've also started a committee that's going to look at some of those insurance products that are administered by the RMA, the Risk Management Agency. And so I think there's actually a call coming up here in the next week or two. And so if anybody's got some background or some interest in discussing some of those risk management products that are available, I think Laura or Lori would be the point people on that. But yeah, those are kind of the two big things right now that we're looking for some expert folks to step in and give us some feedback on their thoughts on how to strengthen sod saver and how to improve some of those insurance products that we've got now.
Thanks, AJ, and thanks to everyone in this work group and all of the work groups for what you've been doing. It's been really fun to see the energy that comes together during these calls and the brainstorming. Like AJ said, if working on sod saver conversations or RMA conversations to what suggestions and perspectives you can help bring forward appeal to you, send me an email and I'll connect you with the right people who are running those meetings. Or AJ, if you want to throw your email in the chat, you can contact AJ as well. So that does it for our Grasslands Initiative updates. Now we're going to take some time and go around and hear from an array of partners in about 2 to 5 minute updates. So these are fairly brief updates, but will hopefully give you a good taste of different things happening around the state. And then as they get going, I also hope that they'll throw their email in the chat and I'll put that on the agenda. So if you've got more questions that you'd like to follow up and have a deeper conversation with things, you'll be welcome to do that. Our first one on the list is Judge Jessop, Director of the South Dakota Grassland Coalition.
Hello all. I was asked to give an update on the grazing schools, and the grazing schools are planned and going forward. The first one's in Wall, June 17th through the 19th, which would be a Tuesday through Thursday. July 22nd through the 24th, which is the Eastern School, which will be held at the Abbey at Marvin, and we will be on McKernan's Ranch up there. And then September 9th through the 11th is the Chamberlain Grazing School, which will be at the Oklahoma Community Center with a classroom portion at Charlie Totten's. The other thing I wanted to add is our bird tour is going to be May 30 and 31 at Charlie Totten's north of Chamberlain. And that bird tour is eligible for continuing credits for teachers. And Crystal Baker, I think, was going to get that pushed out this week. She's the one we've been working with. And the Leopold winner should be announced last week. Not quite sure if the governor is going to do it or not, but it will be announced next week. So stay tuned for that announcement. And the tour will be, I guess, depending on who the winner is, later on in the year. Any questions, comments, gripes? Thank you.
Thanks, Judge. Mitch Iverson is joining us next.
Good afternoon. I am with a variety of groups, the Lawrence County Natural Resource Committee, Project Learning Tree, and others. Some of us got together for the Spearfish Career Day. Um, uh, Pheasants Forever, South Dakota Association of Foresters, NRCS, and a few others to kind of raise some awareness about careers in natural resources. We weren't recruiting for anybody per se, just raising the awareness. And it was a pretty good outcome. I thank Laura for all her help with it, getting us some materials and doing some networking on it. We had 2 rangeland specialists at a booth, three foresters, and 2 biologists. So we had some good chats with some kids, and I think it was a good outcome. We probably plan to do it in the future. I don't know if we'll get anything more done this spring, but if anybody has any interest in the future, we'd be glad for you to join us. And that's really all I had. I just wanted to thank South Dakota Grasslands. And I do want to say one thing that struck with me with the kids was it was really good to reach out to kids from a non-ag background and tell them a little bit about what, say, a rangeland management specialist does, or what someone that works with GIS does, or a wildlife biologist. You know, the farm kids have a lot better idea of what goes on, but that's the big benefit I saw with this effort. So thank you.
Thanks, Mitch. Mitch, am I correct that you guys developed like a PowerPoint and have some handouts that if somebody wanted to replicate this idea like on the east side of the state, could they connect with you for that?
Sure. Yeah, we've got developed quite a few materials, poster boards, PowerPoints, and we got a lot of handouts. So yeah, reach out to me if you know, it involves grassland in the sense of the rangeland management, but our approach was kind of all natural resource careers. So yeah, reach out to me. I'll
Thanks,
put my number in the chat.
Appreciate it. Thanks for doing that, and for everyone else who helped out. Matt, can you tell us what about the new project that DU has going?
Absolutely. What we did is obviously we had a Grasslands RCPP, and that's to seed areas that are just less productive, you know, back to grass. And we do pay an establishment payment, you know, in conjunction with the NRCS. Really good project, pushing grass where it should be. And but the issue we always have, like a lot of conservation groups, is getting the word out and getting the information out. You know, and obviously we've all had, you know, workshops and bus tours in the past and stuff, but it seems like a lot of times we always deal with a lot of the same groups. And there's a lot of producers out there that just don't interact either with the NRCS or other NGOs, non-NGOs. And so reaching out, so we had to figure out how can we do that. And one of the ways, because we know that salinity in the upper Jim River, all the way down actually the Jim River Valley, I mean, it's killing us. It's a big issue, especially when you have, you know, row crop farmers and everything is corn and beans. That really promotes those salts coming to the surface and turning a lot of our land to deserts. So how do we reach those people? Well, we did it in a way here. We first had to identify, well, where's the problem, you know, and so we could have a targeted outreach. And then Caleb Caton, who's also on this call, we started using some ArcGIS imagery and the different bandwidths and stuff to identify where those saline areas were the worst. And then once we knew where those saline areas were the worst, then we knew who to call. And we just used whether it was Onyx or the regular county information to target those. Well, how do we get those people in the room? So what we held on February 12th was what we called was a conservation a conservation dinner. And then we got on the phone, and between myself and Caleb, we called probably over 80 producers. Say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. Gonna reaching out you for. And we have a simple presentation. And the presentation was we had a geologist come in and talk about where do the salts come from? Why do we have them in the landscape? The origins of our soils in the upper gym. And then the other part of it was we had Anthony Bly come for Every Acre Counts and put some numbers and economics to it. So that was just essentially 2 half-hour presentations. And we had this at Big Fellas, and we served a really nice meal, got them in the room. And at the end of the day, after all these calls and everything else, we had about 27 producers show up. And so we're a little bit disappointed because we had a lot more RSVPs. But from those 27s, we did get a lot of interest in RSVP. And then there's other people from just, even though they couldn't show up because they had conflicts, we still got a lot of, good outreach. And we're going to have, once they release our funds, if they ever release our funds, we're going to get a lot of grass on the ground because of this effort. So just another little, granted, it was relative. I mean, I don't know what it came out to be, if it was $18 a plate or whatever we had up there, but it was, a different way. It was more personal, very interactive. And at the end of the day, it did get us a fair amount of contracts, or once we get the funds released, it'll get us. So anyway, that was an outreach effort. That first one we done, was successful, a lot of word of mouth. And, so I think it's a good model. It's a good model if you're in a position to where you can put that on. I think we really want to do more of them because we saw good returns on it. So that's what we did. And Caleb, if you want to jump in a little bit and talk about, with the ArcGIS on how you did that, but or not, but those saline areas, they really jump out.
Caleb,
I don't know if Caleb was having issues with his audio, if he can jump on. Nope, his audio is down, so he can't. But no, it starts. So it's just essentially, it was open to everybody. We never turned anybody away, but we wanted to target those people that had the biggest problems, and it seemed to work. So anyway, that's what we did, and I was pleased in the aftermath, and so.
And that's kind of a topic that when the Private Land Biologist Forum happens and the Connecting Grassland Producers and Programs Workgroup facilitates some conversation, it's events like that. What's the outside the box thinking, or what models and different styles of connecting with landowners is happening around the state, and what works well in different communities to get us expanding that reach of producers who know about programs available.
And granted, it wasn't the easiest thing to cold call people and say, hey, look, because we really didn't, we were very careful in how we worded it. We didn't come out and say, hey, we saw on a map that you have saline issues. No, we didn't word it that way, but we just wanted to make them aware of the programs that are out there. And we also had invited the conservation districts as well as the DCs for the counties up in the upper gym, to have those conversations while people were sitting there having a good meal. So
thanks for doing it, Matt.
Thank you, guys.
Matt or Caleb? All right, if so, throw them in the chat. And then Matt,
I'll toss my email in there.
Thanks. All right, our next report is from Lindsay. She works with Playa Lakes joint venture, which is south of us, but still doing work that we can utilize here in South Dakota. So we're excited to learn about what they're doing there.
So like Miss Laura said, I appreciate the invite to come and speak with you all. So my name's Lindsay Shorter. I'm the Grassland Conservation Marketing Manager for Playa Lakes Joint Venture. So like Laura said, we're a little south of you. We do work in Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, and Colorado. But we've been doing a project over the last 2.5 years focused on invasive woody plants specifically in Kansas and Oklahoma, and how we work to understand producers' motivations and barriers to completing that removal work, and then how do we take those motivations and barriers and better communicate around those. So Laura asked me to come in and share a little bit about the project as well as some of those communication products that we created. So like I said, really quickly, the project overview for the last 2.5 years, we've been working. We held focus groups and interviews to work to identify those motivations and barriers. And some of the main deliverables from this project was to create targeted messages to increase early and consistent removal of invasive woody plants, and also integrating more of a fire culture, prescribed fire here within Kansas and Oklahoma. Obviously, specifically focused on those two states, but definitely we're hearing some great applicability outside of our two states as well. We worked to create and test communication messages. We actually worked with our producers to validate those messages, to really make sure they're saying what we want them to say. And then we created communication guides and communication products for any conservation staff to take and utilize. So that's what Laura wanted me to share with y'all today. So a little bit about our communication guide. Something that we have continue to have an issue here in Kansas and Oklahoma is we have a lot of very young folks starting their career in conservation, which is awesome and wonderful. But we heard through our advisory team that, a lot of our young folks who are starting in conservation, they're really great and they're different, specialties, whether that be grazing or biology or habitat, whatever that might be. But a lot of those young folks may or may not have ever had a communication class, right? They never learned about that in school. So helping these young folks, or folks who are even later on in their career, just be better when they're communicating with producers was a big portion of this communication guide. So obviously we're focusing here a lot on, removing invasive woody plants and learning about motivations and barriers, but that next step is to actually integrate that into our communication. And we talk about building relationships and how do we, integrate motivations and barriers as we're, building those relationships. And in there, we also have a few different paragraphs or sections about communicating with specific audiences. So we sat down with some recreational landowners, some absentee landowners, as well as some tribal land managers. So some different areas on communicating with those specific audiences. And then we also talk about, that idea of changing behavior. So how do you meet producers where they are and, move them down that line from, if you're thinking about changing behavior from non-managing to managing, there's different communication messages that are more appropriate depending on where folks are on that behavior spectrum. So a lot of good stuff in that communication guide. Obviously, like I said, that work was focused in Kansas and Oklahoma, but very applicable. We're hearing for other states. So I was happy to come on and speak about that when Laura invited me. Another portion of that communication guide is our communication toolkit. These are communication products that are pre-created utilizing a lot of those messages that were validated by our producers into all different kind of communication products, whether that be flyers or event flyers or program flyers. We also have a lot of different postcards. So a lot of our staff obviously are super busy and they are out in their offices doing a lot of work. So, we thought if we could create some of those communication products that are beautiful and really attractive, that's one less thing they have to do. And we're actually funded to continue this work. So I always tell our conservation staff, if there's something that you need that's not out there, please let us know, because more than likely, if your office needs it, somebody else does too. So it's kind of just a landing page for a lot of those communication products that any office can take and utilize and make their own to help with whatever events or outreach they might have. And then the last portion of this project was the creation of our Tomorrow's Grasslands website. Like I said, obviously focusing on Kansas and Oklahoma right now, but we're expanding to other states. Some of the the point of this website was, we met with all these producers in these interviews and focus groups and asked them, what information or products they need to help them do the work. So they identified some specific areas and we addressed it on this website. In our states, we had a lot of local contractor list, but nothing statewide, and especially nothing if we have a lot of absentee landowners in these two states. So nothing that somebody out in California can, take and look and find contractors for their specific area. So we have two different areas that specifically came from producer suggestions, and that's our contractor list and our assistance programs list. Our assistance program shows all different kind of assistance programs across our partnerships. So it allows producers to get on and kind of look at what all our partners have for assistance programs and kind of pick and choose which program is right for them, and then kind of sort through them and then find what works for them. And it has that contact information for those those partners that are administering those programs for them to kind of get in contact with. And then a statewide contractor list. So for both states, you can sort by your area of the state, as well as what management practice you're wanting to do. So if you're wanting to do prescribed burn or, skid steer work, aerial spraying, whatever it might be, you can sort by your area of the state and what actual management practice you want to get done. So both of those are on the Tomorrow's Grassland website. Obviously right now focusing on Kansas and Oklahoma, but we have heard talk that we're going to be able to get Nebraska done soon, and we're moving the work to Texas as well. So hopefully adding those 2 states here relatively shortly. So I will stop sharing. I know I'm probably over my 5 minutes, so that was a super, super quick synopsis. But if anybody has any questions, I can drop my email in the chat. Happy to answer anything anybody has.
Thank you for coming on to share with us in South Dakota and for sharing the resources. Like you said, everyone's busy, so if we don't have to reinvent the wheel and something exists, that's great to be able to utilize that and just tweak it accordingly. Next, going on with the prescribed fire topic, Cody Grewing is going to tell us about some things happening that have been happening in South Dakota.
Yeah, so it's kind of that time of year. It's been kind of a real fun, kind of exciting times. Got a couple new burn associations going on in the region down in Yankton and kind of that Chamberlain Lower Brule area on top of the Mid-Missouri River. But yeah, we had 4 workshops this year, kind of for a total of 135 new attendees going through the classes. So really a lot of interest there. And again, the cool thing is when we've got these new PBAs going, and it's been kind of fun interacting with them, kind of, getting grants and equipment to kind of, ramp up and just have some capacity to, do these kind of projects and that sort of stuff. Fortunately, we've been able to get some of that new equipment dirty a little bit. Here's a smaller fire that we've kind of been looking to do here for a couple of years on Lealand Schoon's property. It's kind of fortunate I was able to make it out there that day. Excited to see how that one turns out. Another exciting project, if you happen to be making your way north or you're down in the Yankton area, if you just basically go north on 81 by the Missouri River there, we did a 80-acre fire there that just the right combination of a lot of grass out there and fuels. We killed a lot of trees that day, and yeah, this is the site you'll see from the road. A lot of dead cedar trees, and you kind of see most of the hardwoods are look like they're in pretty good shape yet. So really excited to see how that goes this year, and probably hopefully at least have 1 or 2 opportunities to kind of get folks out there and just kind of see what we're able to do. It's kind of a little snapshot. Again, it's been real fun working with that Southeast Prescribed Burn Association. I see Dan's on the call, but just really cool that just able to pull a group of folks together that are real interested in kind of doing some good work on the landscape, and hats off to those guys to just kind of help put this stuff together. Again, we had our Lower Brule workshop last week, and part of that workshop is live fire. We had 180 acres to potentially burn out there, but just the winds just weren't quite right that day. But we were able to do, 1 smaller 15-acre unit. Just a good opportunity to get equipment in people's hands that hadn't had a chance to use them before, and just kind of go through a traditional prescribed burn. And there's really no, you can talk in the classroom as much as you want, but until you're actually on a fire and kind of, feeling the heat and smelling the smoke and, kind of going through things, anytime you have an opportunity to get on those, live fire opportunities, that's great. Yeah, and I guess, that's kind of the end of my short little presentation here, but I just kind of like to say, if you're in these regions, I'd really encourage you to kind of reach out and, get involved with these prescribed burn associations. A lot of cool momentum right now, and just, yeah, really exciting times.
Thanks, Cody. On that note, with the Grasslands Initiative, we also have another group. It's not really a work group, but more just a communication spot called South Dakota Woody Encroachment Happenings, where we get together and talk about things. including prescribed fire, meet every 3 months. So if that's something that you'd like to be a part of and you're not already on the email list, make sure when you fill out the interest form for the Grasslands Initiative, you check that box and we'll get you added to that email chain.
One quick thing I should note, I'll put my contact information in the chat here, but for anybody, if you run into folks that are interested in prescribed fire, I'm available, as far as planning, putting people in touch with the burn associations and other things, and just kind of whatever we can do to kind of help push that stuff forward.
Thanks, Cody. I'll get all of everyone's email that's coming in on the chat. I'm getting added to the agenda. So if you have access to that, you'll be able to look it up later. Next, we have Pete to give us a brief update on what happened at the Grassland Management School and things going forward.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, everybody. Can you hear me, Laura? Yes. Okay. I'm putting a link in the chat right now. It says Grassland Management School. I don't have any videos or slides or anything, so this is kind of a brief verbal update for all of you. The Grassland Management School was held at Cedar Shores, Oklahoma back in February. And for those that aren't familiar with the format of that school, it's kind of what we call kind of the three-legged stool of the South Dakota Grassland Coalition education platform, coordinated through and with SDSU and others. But the coalition offers the annual grazing schools, and then several years ago, we were doing some outreach courses, half-day courses or whatever on grassland management, and it morphed into a full-fledged grassland management school. We've offered that now over the last 8 years. I think this was our 4th full school that we've offered, and then the third of those is those annual fire schools that Cody just did such a nice job kind of reviewing. And hats off to Cody and for really stepping in this year and helping us out with coordinating with so many of those landowner fire schools as well. But as far as the grass management school, it was a one-day event this year. We wanted to do something earlier in the season. We were getting a lot of feedback from landowners and agency partners that wanted to get ahead of the coming planting season. So we really focused on grassland restoration at this year's school. And you'll see in that, if you click that link, you'll see a series of 20-some videos that we produced with the help of many of the partners that are on the call here as well, either presented or helped fund the videos themselves. So we had good interaction in the room. I think we had over 100 people in the room. And then these videos are segmented to follow the agenda of the day. So you're able to watch really the video titles and the brief description of the video is available on the SDSU YouTube channel events page. You can navigate to it several different ways, and you can kind of hone in on whatever grassland restoration topic you might be interested in, whether it's weed control or site prep, planting into sod, planting into soils, chemical history, seed selection, purchasing seed, harvesting seed, kind of cover the whole gamut there in those videos. So that's really all I got, Laura. I don't know if we have to go any deeper than that, but just welcome you all to review those and share them. And we do plan on hopefully following up with some bus tours. We haven't really got those scheduled yet, but we're hoping to offer that field component this year as well. So
thanks, Pete. Just so everyone's aware, for timing wise, we have about 15 more minutes of updates, and then we're going to make sure that we save at least 15 minutes for our producer highlight. We've got a great story to hear about today. I would love to get some feedback. So while you're listening to the next presentation, if you would be willing to give up 2 hours, I'm recognizing that when I said this is the best 90 minutes of your Monday, it might actually be possible that we could make this the best 2 hours of your Monday once a quarter. If that's something you'd be interested in, 2 hours would be okay chunk. I recognize that a lot of you have cameras off and are maybe trying to multitask. So maybe 2 hours would be fine. Throw it in the chat, 90 minutes, 2 hours, or you can send me a private message if you'd like. Would help me figure out with planning our next one. Thanks. Our next update is from Tanner with South Dakota DANR.
Good afternoon. I'm going to share my screen here quick. So my name is Tanner Clausen. I'm with the Department of Ag and Natural Resources, and I'm gonna give an update on the Riparian Buffer Initiative, and then I do have two other things that I was asked to update on. So I'll try to be quick and brief, but the basis of the program is a buffer with a minimum 50 feet, maximum of 120 feet. It's trying to get buffers along pastures, cropland, or even just recreational land to essentially tie it up. We have a 10-year contract, and we're just buying the management for those 10 years. All right. So we have two sets of money, or two different funding pools. So I just go by Big Sioux and statewide. And the Big Sioux money was House Bill 1256 money. So they're just different ear tags of money. That money, the Big Sioux money, actually has to be spent in the Big Sioux specifically. Statewide can be spent, obviously, throughout the whole state. But throughout the Big Sioux, we have 57 contracts, 28 potential contracts. I think that actually might be a tad higher now. I won't read through all these numbers just to save you guys some time. But statewide, we have 20 contracts and 11 potential contracts. And as of lately, I would say you kind of get that landowner talk back and forth, or the neighbor talk. That's really helped out. I know Matt was talking about how to reach different groups of people. And we found that there's actually a lot of landowners that are NOLOs, or non-operating landowners, kind of a more difficult population to reach out to. So we actually did a mailing. We were fairly successful on that. I want to say we had like 5-6% response rate on that. So we were happy with that. That really got the ball rolling for us. And then our partners have been probably the most instrumental, I think, as far as getting the word out there, boots on the ground. As far as internally, Department of Ag and Natural Resources, we're just not in the field as much as our partners are. So, and we're not as local as our partners are either. So that was a huge help, or has been a huge help. This is kind of what our map looks like as far as the contracts we have, the potential contracts, areas we're working in. Big Sioux money, we've had that funding for a little bit longer than we've had the statewide funding. So there's a lot more dots over here. You're starting to get some stuff West River. It's a little bit more difficult sell out there. Payment rates just aren't great. And then if they're going to graze the pastures next to the streams, they have to fence out the pasture, and fencing isn't all that cheap either. We do offer alternative water cost share, fencing cost share, and seed cost share, but with the low payment, they actually end up spending a little bit more money on fence than like some of the contracts would be. So we're trying to fine tune that, find a happy medium where we still get the benefit of water quality, but the landowner is still getting the benefit of, trying the new management on their land without having to fit a big bill. Yeah, just a little bit closer up picture of the Big Sioux. Those dots were getting a little bit overlapped. We've had as of lately, Bruley Creek down the southeast corner. We got just having a ton of interest down there, and then actually up right around the Webster area on Bitter Lake, mostly. But if we keep going the rate we're going, we're going to have a heck of a buffer around that lake, as long as it doesn't flood it out. But water levels seem to be kind of all across the board up there from year to year. Okay, so now this is what I was tasked with as far as Conservation Commission. Unfortunately, I won't be able to answer too many questions on this. I know what essentially is on the screen. I hate to bore you, but I'm going to read through it here. So the State Conservation Commission met in Pier April 8th. The meeting was a grant round meeting where 9 conservation districts submitted 10 applications requesting $347,357.13 in funds from the Coordinated Natural Resource Conservation Grant Fund. The commission approved funding for 10 applications totaling $249,857.13. The commission also approved 7 grant amendment requests and 1 soil award nomination from the Beadle County Conservation District. So that was it for Conservation Commission, at least from the meeting on the 8th. And then the Weed and Pest Commission met in Pier on April 9th. The commission discussed their long-term directives, annual work plan, and fiscal year 2027 grant criteria. That's all I have for an update. If anybody has any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. If not, I'll throw my email in the chat and people can reach out.
Thank you, Tana, for covering all that. And if you're okay with it, I'll send your slides out as well. So if somebody wants
Yeah.
to look at those numbers more in depth, I'll be emailing out things after this call. So if you have something you'd like to share, feel free to get that to me to include with the recording that we'll send out. Next, we have Victor. He's going to make us aware of a project that he's working on.
Thanks, Laura. How's my audio? Just thumbs
Coming
up.
through well. Yep.
Good.
Just
Okay.
not to rush you, but we do have probably like 2 minutes. So
That's totally fine.
thanks.
Yep. Yeah, I sent Laura a poster of some prelim analysis. If you could send that after, that would give you a lot more detail of what we're doing. Basically, I'm affiliated with South Dakota State University, and this project is funded by Game Fish and Parks. And we're investigating mammal responses to prescribed burns at 12 different GPAs. And we are going to be looking at from everything that's a deer mouse, a ground squirrel, shrews, bats, even the larger guys such as deer, mule deer, pronghorn. Yeah, there's Laura sharing the prelim poster there. Gives you some of the faces. Field season for me will start May 12th. I'll be traveling all around. I will be starting in Little Bend. We will be using multiple different methods of trapping these little guys. We'll also be doing trail cams for the larger ones and acoustic detectors for bats. And we will be also collecting some veg samples. And the goal of this project is we want to know how the flora and fauna are responding to prescribed burns, especially in these GPA areas. And we are open to accepting new private landowners. We already have some on board. We're just kind of coordinating that. And just to keep it short again, if you're interested in even joining us in the field, open extra pair of hands are always welcome. So definitely feel free to shoot me an email, give me a call. Honestly, if you just want to see some of these critters up close and as close as you can, you won't be able to handle, but you can definitely see them and take pictures because they're pretty cute. They're pretty underappreciated. And yeah, I'll never say no to an extra pair of hands, especially when collecting data. And again, if you're interested in that, just shoot me an email, give me a phone call if you prefer that. And yeah, I'll keep this nice and tight.
Thanks, Victor. Next, we have Jake Koenig with Monarch Joint Venture.
Perfect. I'll make this short and sweet, Laura. I know you're trying to go on a timeline here. I just wanted to touch base for those of you that have been following along with the proposed monarch butterfly listing for the threatened with a 4D rule. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has extended and reopened that 60-day comment period. That will close on May 19th. So if you haven't submitted a comment and you'd like to do so, go ahead and get that in as soon as you can. The other thing I wanted to briefly mention is we have the North American Monarch Summit coming up here June 24th through the 26th. That's going to be in Minneapolis, Minnesota at the McNamara Alumni Center there. So if you're interested, check it out. I'll throw a link in, but that's all I got.
Thanks, Jake. And I'm getting a lot of chats right now that 2 hours would be great quarterly. So if you feel differently, send me a message. Otherwise, hopefully we'll have a little bit more time to go in more in depth next meeting in July. Some of these topics. Lealand, Schoon, can you let us know about an event that's happening yet tonight?
Yeah, you bet. So, a quick question, you can react and if you want to participate, but does this group think South Dakota and the larger area is going to be hit with extreme dry conditions? So Forever Grazing Lands is a former partner with the South Dakota Grasslands Initiative, and that's really me, Lealand Schoon, and my company Forever Grazing Lands. But we partnered with KWYR Radio out of Winter, 6 local newspapers, South Central RC&D, the Winter SDSU Extension Center, Rosebud 4-H Extension. But anyways, our accomplishments has been this, is by the time we're done the next 2 days, we'll have had 8 different meetings throughout this South Central part of South Dakota discussing drought duration and proper grazing management as a result of drought. We'll have touched over 100 ranchers that have attended these meetings, and the discussion is about 1 hour long. It's a PowerPoint presentation, and we just what's kind of unique is I update each presentation with the South Dakota Drought tool and the South Dakota Mesonet current weather information. So for instance, we picked up some moisture a weekend ago, and so people had questions. So what's that going to do with this drought? We talk about it in real time. So tonight we're going to be talking on winter at 7 p.m. tonight, and then tomorrow over interior. And so really just in conclusion, possibly we're going to try to do a Facebook Live before the end of April to hit that part of the community that's not able to attend these events in person. So thanks, Laura.
Thanks, Leland. All right. Next week, I guess just one that I added to the agenda. It's not necessarily a update, but Janice with American Bird Conservancy made me aware that they're doing a project called Prairie Bird Bingo, which is dual purpose to help them collect data on what birds are being seen, as well as a fun activity to get people outside looking for these birds. If you follow the link there, you can learn a little bit more. And they also have like a beginner level, as well as a little bit more confident bird watcher level as well. So I encourage you to look at that. With that, we'll move into our producer highlight time. We have Chris Bohlander with us today. If you had time, there's an amazing grassland video from the Grassland Coalition on his operation. Here to tell us a little bit about what they do, as well as, like Leland was getting at, hitting on the topic of drought and how they address that on their ranch. Thank you, Chris.
Hey, thank you, Laura. I'm humbled to be here. When Annie Walker and Laura approached me some time ago, weeks ago, they asked if I would speak, and I said, yes, of course, I need to give back to NRCS. NRCS has given so much to, I'm going to get choked up right away because NRCS saved our place. We had a water issue. I'll try to keep that brief and really talk more about the drought, but obviously water and feed are part of drought, and that's what's on my mind. I'm going to share my screen. My daughter is my tech support, so you may see her pop in. Can you help me do this? And I'll start talking here. The reason I said yes right away is I'm going to quote Cooper Hibbard said in one of his presentations, as far as grasslands, if you're not concerned, you're not paying attention. And I'm deeply concerned. I'm trying to do my part as a rancher. I'm gonna let her get that clicked over. Okay, so when I think about drought, it takes me back to Laura, can you see the screen? Is it my PowerPoint?
Yes, it's taking up the full screen with your orange background and text.
Super cool. Okay, that must be back from my school days at Orange for the Tigers. So when Laura contacted me, it made me think about it really started on March 27th of 2012, which would sound odd that I remember a date, but I do, because that was a day that I came out and my dad was putting in spring wheat with he had all the windows open and no jacket on, and he said we need to get ready when we're seeding wheat in 80-degree weather in March. We need to get ready for a drought. And really since then, we don't not think about drought as ranchers, and you all are in contact with ranchers, so I maybe will paraphrase that. My dad passed on July 12th of 2012. On July 13, we found our first polio cow. And if you're not familiar, a polio cow has had too much sulfate in their diet, typically water. And she was watering off a dam. Thankfully, one of our neighbors saved her with thiamine. That started a journey for us where NRCS saved our hide and our neighbors. Again, I think we're a little short of time. I maybe won't go into all the details. We have two different ranches, not that they're big operations, it's just two different locations. One is our place and one is my mom and dad's place. Both had artesian wells, both went bad, high sulfates. So NRCS, I started a list of names that have helped us, and I decided not to say them today because there's some that I'm going to forget and then I'll feel terrible. But NRCS, I called them, I said, I'm in trouble. These artesian wells aren't working. We got into equip, and to just nutshell it, my dad's place when I was a kid had 4 pastures. Now we are 13 to 15 pastures of permanent fence, and we got that through equip. The permanent cross fencing we put in is 5-wire, and the posts are very close together because of my commitment to intensive grazing. Anybody that's intensively grazed knows that you have to have good fence. So NRCS didn't fund it all. I mean, we wrote checks too, but NRCS was the catalyst that got us to where we are today. I'll introduce myself a little bit because all of you, I mean, I know a few people on the list, but obviously not a majority of you. You kind of probably need to know who you're listening to here. When I left high school, it was not economically viable to have 2 of us on the ranch. My dad said, we're barely making it and we can't split it. So I went to college. I went to SDSU, got a biology degree, ended up in education, loved it, absolutely loved education. Starting to do pre in 1998. And then I've been up here in north central South Dakota because that's where the cows are and the rangeland. And I ended up in school administration. And there was a period of time after my dad's death where I got into backgrounding calves. To make a long story short, I ended up very competitive backgrounding calves in north central South Dakota when corn was $8. When corn went to under $4, I can't compete with Kansas and Nebraska anymore. I hate to admit this, but we were in a cash flow pinch. And Mobridge Pollock had a position for an elementary principal. I jumped back into education for 5 years, and I just, I'm going to use the word retired because I'm done. Retired from education last year. So I'm home full time now running cattle. Our son is just got into graduate school in San Diego. He won't be back. I mean, oceanography, he's not going to be back in South Dakota. Our daughter's going to Augustana for ministry. She won't be back to the ranch anytime soon. My wife is a speech pathologist. She's not involved in the day-to-day, which works great for our marriage because, I'm the one out making the decisions. So when I think about drought, you think about feed and water. I don't care what anybody says, putting up feed costs money. This is a photo of a broken axle on a dually, and I'm just going out to grab some bales. I think that repair cost me, I don't know, $4,000 or something. When we were backgrounding calves, we touched a blade of grass 8 to 9 times between cutting it and putting it back out on the fields as manure. That's not economically viable for us. Though in a drought, I got to have feed. So we've been stockpiling some hay. I'm a little different and I'm not trying to maintain a core cow herd. I look at cattle as inventory. I buy calves, I buy old cows, I buy what makes sense on the market. This is a photo I sent my brother and sister. I'm unloading calves at 3 in, balling calves, and I didn't shoot this text to them at 3 in, but I sent him a text that said, balling calves, the smell of prairie hay, and diesel, I'm addicted. And my brother shot back, I think drugs would be cheaper. But I think about things as inventory, as my cattle, excuse me. Here's water. So we talked about feed, here's water. Again, my siblings did not believe me that all the dams on our dad's place were dry. This was taken in 2022. This dam has a little bit of water in it today, not enough. We used it last summer. Can't use it, won't use it again this summer unless we have some type of blizzard event. But that horse is in the middle of, that dam would be probably 8 to 10 feet deep. It's silted in pretty bad. There's a tank just out of sight. With the help of NRCS, EQIP, the folks at Corson County, Dewey County, we now have a tank every half mile. That is, I might get choked up thinking about it. To be able to go from 7 dams on the whole ranch to a tank fresh, good water every half mile is incredible. We're really thankful. So what am I thinking about in a drought? I've been asked to put a lens on that. We're always thinking about drought, and we're always thinking about big snow events. And we have to be prepared for both because the economic impact is too big if you're not. Last year, we had a good hay production, so I started stockpiling hay. I got a good share of hay on hand right now. I set aside a couple thousand acres that we went through and quickly grazed in April of last year, and it has not been touched since. And I patted myself on the back, thought I was a superstar until I went to renew with the bank. And why wasn't that land in production? Why, you know, I can get myself into a fear of natural disasters. And I see a lot of folks on this call are maybe working for agencies. Maybe be cognizant of that, that if you've been through some of these droughts, blizzards, I fell victim to overthinking it. And now I'm in a pinch for cash flow, to be real open with you. So what did I do last year to prep for the drought? I did increase my crop insurance and PRF insurance, great tools for us. During 2025, corn is cheap, protein was cheap in comparison to the cost of hay. We'll see, I'll either be a hero or a zero here in a few months, but rather than feed hay, I bumped up my corn production. Not long after Laura and I talked about this call, that would have been about a month ago, rather than feeding more hay, I bought another load of corn, another load of screenings, that's soybean screenings, and I've got cattle dry lotted yet. Now, when I look at my dry lots as a conservationist, it makes me sick to my stomach to see that black dirt. But on the other side, again, I've got to be financially viable, and I've got to wait for this grass to get a little taller and more production so I keep my gains going. I call it short stocked. We did not fill. I do not have all my AUMs full right now, which is a financial risk. But on the other side, I don't know if y'all on this, I know I see Lyle's on this call, Lyle Perman. He knows this cattle market's through the roof. So can I conserve my grass and still pay all my bills because these yearlings are so high right now? We'll see. Again, hero or zero status. Here's what I think, and I would really like, I should have started with this. Anybody on this call, interrupt me and say, you know what, I don't agree with you. Or did you think about, you can't offend me. Remember, I was a high school principal. I've heard it all. I've swallowed more parents' saliva than any one man should. You can't offend me. I mean, jump in here, but you know that they give tribute to Mark Twain for this quote. It isn't what you know that gets you in trouble. It's what you knew for sure that just ain't so. I got myself in a couple big pinches, and I look at my ranch as getting a third of its annual rainfall in the fall, hopefully a third in wet snow, which fills those dams, which you could see was dry, that one, and it's going to be dry this summer unless something changes, and a third in the spring. I think I see in hindsight, I'll share a couple big mistakes I made, that isn't necessarily the case because I got my ass handed to me twice, or well, several times, the two big ones. Big mistakes that I think about today. I forget the year. I could go back and look. Our son was still home, so it would have been more than 4 years ago. I was stocked heavily with yearlings. On June 25th, I went down to my dad's place. We had them temporary wired onto a place, smaller pasture. At 10:30 a.m., they were walking the fences, hungry. Well, they weren't getting protein. We were in a flash drought right then, and they were hungry. Their guts were empty. They had good water. And I pulled the trigger and sold the whole bunch of them. Thought, you know what? We're over this rain cycle. I'm going to let them go. And that was financially, I know I'm maybe perseverating on financial, but you have to in our business. That hurt. I thought at the time, well, we're through our wet cycle until September, October. I'll sell these yearlings, hold my grass, and then I'll take in somebody's cows that's in a pickle. It literally started raining 8 days later and everything greened up. And I lost my keister on that deal. Another one I won't talk much about. I bought a bunch of late bred cows because remember, I think about cattle as inventory to harvest that grass. I'm not in love with a cow. I bought a bunch of late bred cows. They calved in July, working great. We hit another, I'll call it a flash drought in September when they should have been breeding. I did not pay attention enough to their nutrition and I did not have a good breed up, and that hurt financially. Okay, I better talk a little bit faster than normal. I see we're
Chris, I was
a
going
little
to say,
short.
are you able to stay on? It's correct to say that you'll stay on as long as we need to.
Oh yeah, I'm a
that?
talker. I'll talk to anybody.
Sounds
I'll
great.
stay as long
So I
as
will
needed.
stay, and we'll keep the recording going. So if somebody needs to
Okay.
stop at 2:30, but you have a question, put it in the chat, and I'll make sure we get it to Chris to have him address. Otherwise, we welcome you to stay on. If you do get off at 2:30, I'll be sending a follow-up email with notes. Continue on,
Super
Chris.
cool. Okay, I'll go fast. So what am I thinking about right now? I have literally confirmed my leases because I have 7 different landowners I work with. We're half lease, half owned land. I've been talking to them about the drought. I've been talking to them about water. These folks do not want to hear about a hiccup in July. They want to know now. And I've had terrific communication with them. I hope Lyle's still on the call because I need to talk to him through this presentation. I am going to put out temporary 2 miles of temporary pipeline from 2 different water sources, 2 different situations. I'm visiting with the landowners. We're working on this together. I find it interesting with the folks on this call that I was looking for a solution to roll the pipe back up when I'm done with it for different reasons. I used Chat GPT for an hour and got nowhere. I mean, I was gonna have to buy some contraption out of Australia or some goofy thing. And I thought, what a nimwit. I called Lyle Perman and I had a solution in less than 7 minutes. So Chat GPT, you can't solve everything. You got to call Lyle once in a while. And Lyle, Shane did have a fix for that, by the way. So what else am I doing? My farm, we have Kentucky bluegrass is a problem. I think there was an 11th commandment that thou shalt not seed brome or Kentucky bluegrass, but here we are. So I need to burn some Kentucky bluegrass out of my retired CRP ground to get it back into good production. I'm not doing that because we don't have rain. I was going to bale graze some yearlings. I kept them locked up and bought corn because I might need that hay later. Water projects, I said that already. What I'm going to be more disciplined due to my learning is I am going to do plant tissue tests throughout the drought to pay attention to nutrition. I am going to utilize Haney tests, and I learned that via obviously the CSP program I was with a number of years ago. So thank you, NRCS, for that learning because now I'll use it. And I also have part of our place in Grassland CRP, and that's take half, leave half, and I will honor that. I need to keep track of where I'm at and my grazing. So that's what I'm thinking about right now. That's what I was asked to do is, what are you thinking about as a rancher? Well, I'm dumping my brain on you. I'll go past this slide. I think I was going to talk. I've already said this. So what am I thinking about now? Nutrition of the cattle, because this grass will burn up if we don't get moisture. I think we've got the hydration solved for these cattle. If you're working with producers, stress. This is stressful. These are big numbers. When I'm buying cattle, the dollars involved are ginormous, and then take that times 8% interest. It's just be cognizant of it. I'm not asking anybody to be Dr. Phil, but this is a stressful situation. So if you're working with folks, just know that. Laura asked me to share some things I'm doing now. I'll segue to that, and then I'm gonna shut her down. This is a photo of something I'm trying. Uh, you can see there's I call it a drag. I think people might call that I don't know. There's different names for it. But that's a piece of equipment. In my world, it's an old drag. I mean, it's way older than me. This is a site of a prairie dog town that got started because there's a little working corral there. Some of it's not in the photo. And that got beat down during weaning because there's a tank not quite in the photo too. Well, you know how this go, or I do. I'm sure everybody on the call knows. Well, that's where the most tender grass is the next year. And then the prairie dogs took over and it's just a mess. Well, this is a windswept ridge. And it bugged me this fall. I seen wind howl across this ridge. So I fed purchased corn stalks on this winter, kind of monkeying with a nutrition plan for my cows too. And what's left are just the stalks because there's no nutrition there. And then I'm going to drag this and hopefully keep the wind from taking my topsoil. This is another one. Look, I know what I'm looking at. I can't use, I don't know if I use does my cursor show up?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so this is a temporary fence we used last year. This is an area at my dad's place where he fed during calving. Well, of course, that turned to tame grass and then to Kentucky bluegrass. We have found success, and I'm probably preaching to the choir, of hoof action will hammer that Kentucky bluegrass. So we had, I don't know, an inch or two of rain, and we quickly put up a temporary fence. I can't claim it. My daughter did it. And there's much hoof action here. This is my control. Here's my experiment. We're going to see if that works. Thank you, NRCS. Whoops. I gotta get back here. Thank you, NRCS. This is windbreak. You can see my float popped here. This was just this morning. That's rural water. That cost me something. So I do want to fence this out. Why I brought this up is you can see that cattle hanging there to get out of the wind or whatever. I am going to fence this out. There's another tank I can use so that this is sod during calving time, which is another, I'm perseverating on money. It's a financial investment, but it's well worth it in my opinion. Real briefly, my dad, not picking on him, calved in the same pasture for 35-ish years. And that was just due to infrastructure. And that pasture always, you could see drought on that grass, first due to the organic matter, the layer. This is a quick photo looking down. I feel this is success because now I've got litter. 3 years ago, there would not have been litter here. We calved somewhere else and have changed our pattern. So here's my summer. Laura asked me to consider, what are you thinking about? Well, it's right here on my refrigerator. My wife's shorter than me, so she can't see on top of the fridge. So this is where I keep my stash of what's important to me. That's a Hanna Instruments water tester. Water is super important award. I didn't stage this. This was all on my refrigerator top. There's a package there, fencing pliers I like. I keep those in a box there. And then there's the Hanna Instruments to calibrate the water meter. I'm testing for conductivity. In my world, that's typically sulfates. I was going to take the pistol out, but I left it there because we had a coyote pup in our barn. I went to take care of it and then realized my wife's Pyrenees dogs already had him cornered. And I didn't want to risk my marriage by hitting one of her dogs. So the pistol went back and the coyote is gone. A friend of mine sent this to me before a blizzard. And this is how I feel some days. This is what the meteorologists know. And this is how I feel often this is what I know so far. I don't know. We're doing our best each day. And I'm done talking, Laura. I'll answer any questions. I feel humbled to be on this call because what do I know? But I'm going to click back to my camera here.
Great. Well, I hope you do have some questions so that we can keep hearing you talk. There's really great thoughts and entertainment from this. Any questions for Chris? turn off your mute and go ahead and ask, or feel free to send them in the chat. You can send them to me directly.
If you could,
want to remain anonymous.
yeah, and if you'd read the chat, I'm not.
Yep, I will if
won't-
they pop in.
All right.
Leland,
Laura,
do you have a question?
Oh, is that me?
Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Chris, for your information. I just have a quick question. Are you using any of the, kind of your weather data tools like South Dakota Mesonet, if there's any stations close to you, or the South Dakota Drought tool to help make any of your decisions this spring?
I humbly say no, Leland, and I heard that when you said it. I'm in a habit of, I'm maybe like a milk cow. I go to the same places all the time. But I will now, though you mention it, yes. And I do know that other ranchers do use it.
Okay. Well, and you mentioned NRCS, whoever you're working with up there, I'm sure they could sure help you too. And it's sure a great tool when you're trying to make some decisions.
As you heard, I am good at making mistakes. So, yeah, thank you.
Those are the best things for us to hear and learn about. So maybe they don't get repeated quite to the same level.
In Chris's defense, he doesn't have a mesonet very close. He will probably within a year. He's got a neighbor that's signing up for one.
Oh, yes, that's right, Lyle. I forgot about that. Yes, like very near here.
And did I see that they're looking for more locations right now? Does anyone know? I thought there was certain counties that they're
Hey,
looking.
Laura, I think it'd do good if you'd go to their site. For everybody's benefit, go to their site, Laura, and post the map of where they're looking for cooperators. They want 150 of them in the state, and so I think it'd be worthwhile for you to get that map and post it.
Yes, I'm looking for, yes, I think I found it. I'll screen share it. Meanwhile, keep sending some questions to Chris. Otherwise, we're just getting a lot of positive thank yous in the comment section, Chris. That was very enjoyable. I think we all would have enjoyed an hour-long talk even, but.
Well, I felt like a monkey in a tree. I don't know what I shared. But it's just what we're thinking about out here. I mean, I spend enough time leaning against pickup boxes with the neighbors, and right now, the drought comes up immediately in every conversation. We are in D2, as everybody knows.
No more questions for Chris right now. If not, Chris, hopefully you'll jump on our next call as well. And in case somebody wants to continue some conversation, they'll continue to network that way.
Heck yeah, I will.
Our next meeting, we're looking at July 7th. Thoughts? I know it's right after the 4th of July weekend. Is that a tough date for people to set aside some time right away on their Monday after they might have had a long weekend? Okay, so I think we'll plan for July 7th for a 2-hour block at that point. If you know another producer like Chris who would be a great story to hear from, let us know for our producer highlight. And with that, we'll wrap up this call. Feel free to stay on and visit if you have any thoughts or questions to share. And thank you very much for your time today.